Hello guys, I'm Edward and I'm here with my guest to talk a little bit about the simplification of the Spanish language. Right, so hello, can you please tell us a little bit about your personal and academic background? Like, what's your name, what you do, where are you from?
Okay. My name is Felipe Robayo, Chacon. I'm a writer and a professor at Universidad del Valle en la licenciatura de Lenguas Extranjeras. Licenciatura de Lenguas y Culturas Extranjeras. I studied at Florida State University. That's where I got my undergraduate degree from, in English, an emphasis in creative writing. I got this title in 2011. That's when I graduated from university.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about how you learned Spanish?
Well, it's not that I learned Spanish. Spanish is my mother tongue, and English is my father tongue.
How can you tell that? What do you mean?
Yeah, because I was educated in a bilingual school, and we grew up learning both languages at the same time, and I was usually coming back and forth to the States and Colombia, moving between them. And when I went over there, I used to be able to practice it in place within the actual context. And over here in Colombia, you basically see every subject in English throughout all of our elementary schools, right? So I grew up with both languages at the same time, so that's why I call it my mother and my father language.
That's cool. Its relationship to education could have impact on people's life.
Well, education usually impacts people's lives by providing a sort of a basis, an underpinning for being able to contribute to society in the form of a job or in the form of entrepreneurship. So it provides them with certain tools so they can, so people can go ahead and develop themselves in the labor world. So that's how education contributes. It allows a person to identify themselves within a context of industry and how they can enter into it.
Approaching to the affect the way people write?
Well, it depends. I mean, if they're writers, if that person is a writer, then yes, it's going to affect how they write, because they're going to constantly be working on this input on how they go about their lives. Well, if you think about another context, like if a person, an accountant, only has to put in some concepts and some numbers to relate that concept, well, yeah, it's going to affect how they write, because they nominalize and they conceptualize in a few words. So yeah, it affects how they write.
And if we simplify Spanish, then people will have it easier to learn
a report, yeah, but everything would be very structured when it comes to formalities. So it's something they'll probably do every now and then, and it's mechanical. And when it comes to writing in text messaging, Facebook, in a more colloquial or informal setting, it might affect in how they express themselves, right? Like, usually, it's funny how you see people, they make jokes depending on what sector of industry they belong to. Yeah? And the puns that they make are related to their workplace, and they understand amongst themselves.
Learning writing is quite a little bit difficult for some people.
Okay.
Yeah, because people that live in isolated places, or people that don't have access to good education, they don't learn well writing rules and spelling rules, and they grow up thinking that the way they write is okay. Yeah. My point is that if we simplify the Spanish, then
Now, I don't see why simplifying language would make it easier for spelling. Why? Because it implies that you have to generate or create a new system for the spelling rules. So, regardless, you're going to have to go through an education process where you make people aware about these spelling rules, even though they're new. So again, I don't consider it's an issue of spelling more so than a lack of preparation on the side of professors, or it might be an aspect of school without saying, without omitting words. So spelling is part of a grammar, and definitely it might evolve through time, right? So in order for that to happen, you'd have to propose those changes, but have them established, and still you have to go through the process of educating people about that new system.
here's where I come with some literal examples. Yeah? So, there are letters that sound differently when they are followed by certain vowels or consonants like the letter C. Yeah? That sounds sibilant, fricative when it's followed by the vowels E or E. Yeah? And the same letter sounds plosive when it's followed by vowels like A, O, and U, or the consonants R and L. Like, yeah, for example, the letter C sounds sibilant when you pronounce Cesar, or when you pronounce, CD, right? And it sounds
Base, the pillar of writing Spanish. Now, what happens? Sometimes there are some choices made based on where the word comes from, so their etymology. Sometimes the choices are made more in a practical sense, and it looks like you're talking about more about practicality. You can do without certain letters because we already have letters which are doing the same job. In that sense, every language has its own difficulties when it comes to writing, when it comes to communicating via writing. Because orality is really different to the written word, to the written voice. You can make cuts in speech, you can add a value to whatever you're saying with the tone, with your hands, with your expressions, with your gestures. So to be able to put all of that into writing is what's difficult. That's where it really becomes hard. Now, so we've gone ahead and broken away from the rules of spelling. In English, we have James Joyce. In Spanish, we have Cortázar. We have, I think, in a place Garcia Marquez does it. We have Roberto Arlt, who also does that. We have here in Colombia, we also have Eustacio Rivera. Right? These are people who are exploring these magnitudes of language, how you spell a word, and they usually do the breaks in orality. Right? When it comes to how the people are saying, they try to represent that. Tomás Carrasquilla also does it quite well, quite prolifically. So, in that sense, I don't think it's about an aspect of these scholars deliberately making it hard to spell out something, right? Actually, it's the opposite. They've set out on a voyage to make it as simple as possible, right? Since it's a live language, it's something that is constantly mutating, and it's constantly receiving newborn words and newborn ways of saying things. So this is the job of the dictionary man, let's call it. And the person, whoever is the authority in dictionaries. They're always on the constant lookout for these new words, what's going to remain, what's going to fade away with time. So, in that sense, no, that's not the purpose of the study, like the scholars of language. Their purpose is actually to make it as simple as possible and as accessible as possible for everyone. right? It's a process of systematizing. So they are looking for simplification. That the Spanish language can evolve into an even more simplified version of itself. I guess it's possible, right? It's just going to take a couple of generations to be able to do that, and it's going to require another branch of the academy to now produce the new ways, the new rules, right? So that difficulty is going to remain regardless if you simplify or not, right? Because what matters whenever you talk about language or writing is that piece of writing needs to communicate. And communication occurs regardless if there's good spelling or not, if the sense, yes, because what matters is what your communicative intention, what you want to communicate. Can you really communicate in writing or not? Spelling wrong might interfere, right, with this communicative process. But yeah, I don't think they did it to like put people to sweat it, right? It's like, oh, we're gonna make this real hard so people can never really write. They didn't do that. They actually did it with the opposite purpose. So yeah, I guess it could. There's a woman that you showed me the video of, which is a person who is an authority, right, on the topic. She's from Harvard, PhD, so she has a level of authority. What I think is that she's found a hot topic to talk about and to get the discussion going. I think it's important. And she points out some examples of that, right? Like, for example, when you say filosofía, it used to be written with the PH, and now the PH changed to the F. So this process takes time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a couple of generations.
You think it's possible?
Yeah, it's pretty possible. I mean, it's a live language, so it's something that might be transforming itself through time. But it also depends on academia, because you can have people in Facebook and WhatsApp using different ways of spelling, right? But you would have to have analysts who are looking at all of these events of language, these occurrences in language, and determine which ones are going to stay and which ones aren't. So there's a big level of arbitrariness.
Yeah.
I think it's a deliberate arbitrariness. And it's a little bit of a contradiction. It's something you can't escape. Because what makes you the authority? Right? Well, the authority is given by the academia. Or being a master in language.
Yeah, but also as long as it is accepted by the speaking communities.
Well, you see, various difficulties emerge. Because when we say that Spanish should be written as it's spoken, and we have people in Bolivia who speak differently to people who speak in Argentina, and then people who speak differently in Mexico, and then people who speak differently in Colombia, then what that means is that we're just going to have a lot of split-ups, separation things. Yeah? So if you say caballo, then well, should I write it with double L or should I write it with SHO?
Yeah, that's
right.
dialect.
So in this sense, I see it an important difficulty. Yeah, it's not something to fear of. You can overcome it, right? It becomes a place of work actually, because it's a problem that emerges. But it has such a big level of being arbitrary that makes you wonder, right? It makes you wonder about, well, how on the dot are they about choosing a specific letter to do with that? Yeah, I mean, we'd have to see, right? We'd have to see also how people take that new way of writing. You can't teach a person that's 60 or 70 years old to get into this new way of writing. That's not going to happen. It probably can happen with kids, right? With the younger generations, and depending on the younger professors that are coming up. And this would have to be like something that enters everything, permeates everything in language. That is, you'd have to have every single book re-edited and put into that new form, which could happen. there are some levels of impracticality, right? As well. Even though it's a practical move, it might be impractical. But it happens. I mean, people in English, people change. The way we speak. For example, the word YOLO in English. Probably I want to see how people look at it in 50 years, the new generation. How this generation say YOLO, like it's the coolest word. You only live once. They're gonna look at it. How your kids are gonna look at that. They're like, oh my God, my dad is so out of place. He's an oldie. He's so old-fashioned. So this is something we can't escape. Language is constantly evolving. It's constantly changing with our own needs. The technology, man, it's going at a pace, and people are being able to communicate misspellingly. Right? They misspell and they communicate.
All right.
Right?
Yeah. So let's close it up. Imagine that this of the simplification and the reduction of the alphabet happens.
Okay.
How do you think it would impact our life?
It impacts our lives in the sense that we now have new rules, right? So basically what we have to do now is adapt to those new rules that are emerging, and to adapt to those new rules. And the students are going to receive a new form of spelling, which will probably be questioned in 100 years.
All right.
Yeah. So basically, it will be a process of adaptation. It will be a process of understanding that, okay, the old rules, certain old rules are gone, but pretty much all of the others remain, because writing is just a way to communicate. So, and that's not going to change.
Got it. Okay, Professor. Thank you very much.
Okay, man.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Bye.